Have you ever wondered why everything seems to be against you? Today, God tells you, do not ignore this message. What you are about to discover has the power to change your life forever, and there is no time to lose. This is not an ordinary message. It is a revelation that can transform the sadness that oppresses you, the loneliness that consumes you, and the pain you carry in silence. You are about to receive a truth that many would love to hear, but that only a few have the opportunity to know. In a world full of empty promises, what you are about to read is different. It is the answer you have been waiting for, the relief your soul urgently needs. God has seen your struggles, has heard your pleas, and today brings you a divine solution, one that you cannot afford to ignore. This message not only promises to heal your wounds, but also offers you lasting peace that the world cannot give you. But there is one detail: this opportunity will not be here forever. This is a decisive moment in your life. God is speaking directly to you, offering you a way out of the darkness in which you find yourself. You don't need to understand how everything will work out now. You just need to trust that what you are reading has a purpose beyond what you can imagine. But be careful. This message has incredible power and the ability to change your life in an instant. Are you ready for what is coming? If you have ever felt that nothing makes sense, that you are trapped in an endless cycle of sadness and despair, you should know that today all of that can change. God offers you something that no one else can: a complete transformation, a new beginning. But you must act quickly because this message will not wait forever. The time to receive your blessing is now, and all you need to do is open your heart and let God do the rest. When the feeling of sadness takes over, it's easy to get lost in a sea of emotions. It feels as if the world has turned gray, and each day seems heavier than the last. But even if you feel alone, it's crucial to remember that you are not walking in this darkness by yourself. God, in His infinite wisdom and love, is with you every step of the way, providing comfort and strength. No matter how deep the abyss you find yourself in, there is always a hand extended, waiting to lift you up. In those moments of loneliness, when it seems that no one else understands your pain, God is there, listening to every sigh and collecting every tear. Sometimes, what you need is not an immediate solution, but someone who is simply present, and God is that constant presence in your life. Sadness can cloud your vision, making you believe that you are alone in your struggle, but the truth is that you never are. Every challenge you face, every internal battle, is known and understood by Him. It's natural that, in the midst of sadness, you feel disconnected from the world around you. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that your problems are unique, that no one else has felt what you feel. But the reality is that sadness is a universal experience, something that we all face at some point. The difference lies in how we handle that sadness, and this is where faith plays a fundamental role. God not only sees you but understands you deeply and is willing to guide you toward the light. Sadness may seem like an invincible enemy, but it is nothing more than a season in life. Just as the seasons change, so does our emotional state. What today seems like an insurmountable burden could tomorrow become a source of strength. It is in these moments of weakness where God acts in mysterious ways, transforming pain into wisdom and despair into a renewed sense of purpose. Trust that this sadness is just a part of your journey, not the final destination. Sometimes, sadness makes us question our worth, makes us feel small and insignificant in a vast and complex world. But remember, to God, you are a valuable creation, a beloved being without conditions. Even though circumstances may make you doubt yourself, His love remains unaltered. It is this unconditional love that sustains you, even when you feel you cannot sustain yourself. There is no mistake, no failure, that can separate your soul from the divine embrace. Loneliness often intensifies sadness, creating a cycle that is difficult to break. But the truth is, you are never truly alone. God's presence is a constant refuge, a safe place where you can go at any time. Even when the people around you fail to understand your pain, God understands it in its entirety. He is there, not just to watch, but to offer you unwavering support, a constant reminder that you are loved and never alone. Acknowledging sadness is the first step toward healing. It's not about ignoring the pain but accepting it as a natural part of life. By doing so, you open the door for God to work in your heart, for His comfort to penetrate the deepest areas of your being. It's not an easy process, but it is a necessary journey. And in every step of that path, God walks by your side, guiding you toward the peace you so long for. It is in this acknowledgement that the true journey to healing begins. God invites you not to hide your emotions but to bring them before Him, with the confidence that you will be heard. He understands your sadness better than anyone, and His desire is for you to find in Him the refuge you need. There is no need to pretend that everything is okay when your heart is burdened with sadness. In His presence, you can be authentic, you can cry, you can release everything that weighs on you. And in that act of sincerity, you will find the peace that only He can give. In life, we all face moments of darkness, but it is in that darkness where God's light shines the brightest. No matter how deep the sadness, there is always a way out, a hope that transcends the pain. God does not promise that life will always be easy, but He does promise to be with you in every difficulty, offering His love and comfort. It is in this promise that you can find the strength to move forward, even when everything seems lost. In those moments when sadness becomes overwhelming, it is vital to remember that you are not meant to carry that weight alone. God is there, ready to bear your burdens, to lighten the weight on your heart. Sometimes, all you need is a simple reminder of His presence, a whisper of hope in the midst of silence. And it is precisely in those moments of vulnerability where His love becomes most evident, giving you the peace and strength you need to continue. There is no need to face sadness with fear. Instead, you can approach it with the confidence that God is by your side, guiding you through every emotional storm. His love is like a beacon in the darkness, a constant light that shows you the way when everything else seems uncertain. By trusting in His guidance, you discover that sadness is not a final destination, but a path that leads you to a greater understanding of His love and purpose for your life. It is easy to feel trapped in sadness, but the truth is that there is always a way out. God offers a hope that goes beyond temporary circumstances, a peace that surpasses all understanding. Sometimes, that peace comes in unexpected ways, like a moment of tranquility in the midst of chaos or a word of encouragement at just the right time. It is in these small acts of grace that you can find the comfort you so long for, knowing that you are not alone in your pain. When the weight of sadness seems too great to bear, remember that God will never give you more than you can handle. His love is your strength. His presence is your refuge. Even when everything around you seems to be falling apart, you can find security in His promise to always be with you. Sadness may try to steal your joy, but with God by your side, you are assured that joy will always find its way back into your life. Sadness can be a harsh teacher, but it can also be a catalyst for personal and spiritual growth. God uses every experience, even the painful ones, to shape and strengthen you. Though it may seem impossible to see the purpose behind the pain at the moment, with time, you'll begin to understand how each piece fits into the larger plan that God has for you. It is in the midst of sadness that we often find our greatest lessons of faith and resilience. Every day is a new opportunity to allow God to work in your life, even in the midst of sadness. You do not have to face your battles alone. His love is available to you at all times. By opening your heart to Him, you allow His peace and comfort to flow into your life, transforming pain into hope. There is no better remedy for sadness than the certainty that God is with you, giving you the strength necessary to overcome any challenge. In the darkest moments of life, it is when faith and hope become our most faithful companions. Often, despair tries to cloud our vision, making us believe that we are alone in our struggle. But the truth is that God is always near, ready to strengthen us and guide us through any storm. His presence is constant, even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. It is precisely in those moments of greatest adversity where His strength manifests most clearly. Hope is not simply a vague wish that things will get better. It is a deep conviction that with God by our side, anything is possible. No matter how daunting the situation, keeping hope alive is essential to overcoming any obstacle. God not only gives us the strength to face our challenges, but He also guides us toward solutions that we may not have considered before. That guidance, though sometimes subtle, is always present, illuminating the path we should follow. It is easy to lose hope when things do not go as we planned. Broken dreams and unmet goals can make us question our purpose. However, it is precisely in those moments of doubt where faith becomes crucial. Faith in God reminds us that, even though our plans may fail, His plan for us is perfect. He knows every step we take, and though we may not understand why certain things happen, we can trust that everything has a greater purpose. Another important aspect is surrounding ourselves with people who share our faith and hope. Bad company can feed doubt and despair, while friends and family who believe in God can be a source of strength. Sharing our struggles with them and receiving their support reminds us that we are not alone on our journey. It is in community that we find backing, and in unity, the strength to move forward, knowing that others also trust in God to overcome their own challenges. We see countless examples of people who maintained their faith in the midst of adversity and were rewarded for it. From biblical figures like Job, who endured unimaginable trials, to contemporary people who have overcome great obstacles, they all teach us that faith and hope are fundamental pillars in life. These stories not only inspire but also motivate us to stand firm, reminding us that with God, anything is possible. Faith is like a muscle that must be constantly exercised. It is not about having blind faith, but about cultivating a deep relationship with God that allows us to trust in His will, even when we do not understand what is happening. Hope, on the other hand, is the fuel that drives us to keep going. Both faith and hope complement each other and provide us with the strength necessary to face any adversity. By keeping hope alive and exercising our faith, we find the strength to overcome even the most difficult moments. God gives us the promise that He will never leave us nor forsake us, and that is an inexhaustible source of hope. Even when circumstances seem to be against us, we can hold on to this promise and find comfort in His presence. Life can be unpredictable and sometimes painful, but with the certainty that God is with us, we can face anything. His love is the rock upon which we can build our hope, and His strength is what sustains us when we feel weak. It is important to remember that hope does not mean ignoring problems, but facing them with the confidence that God has a plan. Sometimes, that plan is not what we expected, but it is always the best for us. By trusting in His guidance, we discover that even in the greatest challenges, there are lessons to be learned and opportunities to grow. Faith and hope allow us to see beyond the immediate difficulties and prepare us to receive the blessings that God has in store for us. When life becomes overwhelming, it is helpful to remember that we are not meant to carry our burdens alone. God invites us to trust in Him and let His strength sustain us. This is an open invitation for everyone, regardless of the situation we find ourselves in. By allowing God to take control, we find relief amid chaos and peace in the midst of the storm. His strength is more than enough to carry us through any challenge, and His guidance leads us to a place of rest and renewal. In the pursuit of strength and hope, it is essential to maintain an attitude of gratitude. Sometimes, a lack of hope can lead us to seek quick and temporary solutions that ultimately do not solve our problems. However, by standing firm in faith, we find lasting solutions that come directly from God. These solutions, though they may take time to arrive, are always the best for us. Patience and perseverance in faith allow us to receive what God has prepared, and they teach us to trust in His perfect timing. The strength that God gives us is not only to endure difficulties, but to overcome them and come out stronger on the other side. It is a constant reminder that, although we are human and have limitations, His power is infinite. This strength allows us to face life with courage and gives us the ability to inspire others to do the same. By sharing our faith and hope with others, we extend God's light and help build a stronger and more united community. It is natural to feel discouraged in moments of difficulty, but faith reminds us that there is always a reason to keep going. Hope gives us a vision of a better future, where God's blessings manifest in ways we cannot imagine. By staying focused on His promise, we discover that even in the darkest moments, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. That light is God's constant presence in our lives, guiding us toward a future filled with His love and grace. The world we live in is not always a kind place. Throughout life, we all face moments of betrayal and disappointment that make us question the goodness of those around us. It is easy to fall into bitterness when the people we trusted fail us, but it is important to remember that these experiences, though painful, are not the end of the road. Every wound, every disappointment, is an opportunity to grow and learn, always with faith as our guide. Betrayals can come from the people closest to us, those in whom we have placed our trust and love. When this happens, it is natural to feel a deep wound in the heart, a sense that the world has become colder and more ruthless. However, it is precisely in these moments of pain where faith plays a crucial role. Faith helps us stand firm, reminding us that while humans may fail, God never will. Facing the cruelty of the world does not mean hardening our hearts, but learning to protect them without losing our essence. It is a delicate but necessary balance. At the same time, we must not allow disappointments to define our outlook on life. Every day is a new opportunity to renew our faith in God and in the good that still exists in the world. Although the shadows of betrayal may darken our path, there is always a light that guides us back to hope. Disappointment, though painful, also has a purpose in our lives. It is through it that we learn to discern better, to choose more wisely whom to trust and to whom to open our hearts. God, in His infinite wisdom, allows us to go through these trials not to punish us but to strengthen us. Every disappointment is a lesson, a tool that, if used correctly, will help us build a fuller life centered on faith. The world may seem cruel, but we must not allow its harshness to extinguish our inner light. Faith in God gives us the strength to face any adversity, reminding us that even in the midst of the storm, His love surrounds and protects us. It is in these moments of difficulty where our true nature is revealed, and by staying firm in our faith, we find the peace and strength necessary to overcome any obstacle that life presents to us. When reflecting on the injustices we may experience, it is easy to feel discouraged and lose hope. However, we must remember that this world is not our final home. It is just a stage in our journey toward eternity. Trusting in God means accepting that, although things do not always go as we planned, He has a greater purpose for us. This understanding gives us the peace needed to move forward, knowing that, in the end, divine justice will prevail. Faith teaches us that we are not alone in our struggles. God is always by our side, even in the moments when we feel most abandoned. By facing the cruelty of the world, we can find comfort in His presence, knowing that He understands our pain and is working in our favor, even when we do not see it. This trust in His plan allows us to face difficulties with a brave heart and a serene mind, knowing that everything has a purpose under His care. Amid the cruelty of the world, it is essential to keep the flame of hope alive. This hope is not an illusion, but a certainty based on faith in God. He is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help in times of need. With His support, we can face any adversity with the confidence that we are not alone. Even when circumstances seem insurmountable, His love sustains us and guides us to victory. Life can be tough, but with God by our side, we can face any challenge. No matter how great the betrayal or how deep the disappointment, God gives us the strength to overcome everything. By trusting in His plan, we find the peace we need to move forward, knowing that He is working in our favor. This trust gives us the ability to rise again and again, with the certainty that with God, there is always a way out. When facing the cruelty of the world, it is important not to lose sight of the love and kindness that still exist. Although pain can cloud our vision, faith allows us to see beyond the shadows and find the light. God calls us to be light in the midst of darkness, to reflect His love even in the most difficult circumstances. By doing so, we not only find peace amid the storm but also help others find their way to hope. It is easy to feel that the world is an unjust place, but we must remember that God is a God of justice. He sees every injustice and every act of cruelty, and although His response may not be immediate, we can trust that His justice will prevail. This certainty gives us the strength to endure difficulties, knowing that, in the end, everything will be okay. With God, there is no wound that cannot be healed, nor injustice that will not be rectified in His perfect time. Every disappointment we face is an opportunity to draw closer to God. By trusting in Him, we discover that even in the moments of greatest pain, His love is enough to sustain us. This relationship with God allows us to face life with courage and hope, knowing that, although the world may be cruel, His love is eternal and His promise to be with us never fails. This certainty gives us the peace necessary to move forward, no matter what the world throws at us. Trusting in God's plan is not always easy, especially when circumstances seem to be against us. Sometimes, life presents us with situations so difficult that it is natural to wonder if there really is a purpose behind it all. However, it is precisely in these moments of uncertainty where faith becomes a firm anchor. God, in His infinite wisdom, sees beyond what we can understand, and His plan, though mysterious to us, is always perfect. When we find ourselves in the middle of the storm, it is easy to lose sight of the direction that God has for our life. Difficulties can cloud our judgment and make us doubt His purpose. But it is in these moments when we must remember that God has a greater plan for us, a plan that transcends our current circumstances. Although we may not see it clearly, we can trust that He is working in our favor, even in the darkest moments. The key to trusting in God's plan is to maintain a long-term perspective. Sometimes, we are so focused on the problems of the moment that we forget that God sees the bigger picture. He not only sees our present but also our future, and He knows exactly what we need to get to where we need to be. This understanding helps us let go of control and trust fully that God has everything under control, even when our circumstances say otherwise. It is in moments of greatest hopelessness when faith in God's plan is tested. Faith is not simply believing when everything is going well but maintaining that belief when everything seems to be against us. It is easy to trust God when life is easy, but true spiritual growth occurs when we can say, "I trust you, God," even when we do not understand what is happening. This trust strengthens us and prepares us for the blessings that are to come. God never promised that life would be free of difficulties, but He did promise to be with us every step of the way. This promise is the foundation of our trust in His plan. No matter how daunting the circumstances, we can be sure that God is working in our favor. His plan is always for our good, even when we do not fully understand it. By trusting in Him, we discover a peace that surpasses all understanding and a strength that sustains us in difficult times. Sometimes, God's plan may lead us down paths we would not have chosen for ourselves. It may mean letting go of something we love or facing challenges we never imagined. But it is important to remember that God always has our best interest at heart. His love for us is unconditional, and His desire is to see us thrive. Although the path may be difficult, we can trust that every step brings us closer to His perfect purpose for our lives. It is natural to have doubts when we face difficult situations. But even in our doubts, God invites us to trust in Him. It is not about understanding every detail of His plan, but trusting that He knows what He is doing. Sometimes, the best way to show our faith is simply to stop struggling and allow God to take control. By doing so, we discover that His plan is always better than anything we could have imagined for ourselves. It is easy to feel discouraged when the plans we had do not work out as we expected. However, faith in God reminds us that His plan is always better than ours. Sometimes, what seems like a failure is actually a redirection towards something better. God sees what we cannot see, and His plan is to guide us toward the fullness of life that only He can offer. By trusting in His guidance, we find the peace and confidence needed to move forward, no matter what we face. In life, we all face moments of uncertainty, where we do not know what the next step to take is. It is in these moments that we must remember that we are not alone in our journey. God is with us, guiding us and directing us toward the purpose that He has planned for us. By trusting in His plan, we find clear direction amid confusion and hope that sustains us, even when the path seems uncertain. Trusting in God's plan also teaches us to be patient. Often, we want things to happen immediately, but God has His own perfect time for everything. Learning to wait on Him is an essential part of our faith. It is in the waiting where God works in us, shaping us and preparing us for what is to come. By trusting in His timing, we discover that every moment of waiting has a purpose and that, in the end, everything fits perfectly into His plan. God will never leave us nor forsake us. This promise is the foundation of our trust in His plan. No matter how great the challenges we face, we can be sure that God is with us, guiding us and sustaining us every step of the way. His plan is perfect, and although we may not always understand it, we can trust that He is working all things for our good. This trust gives us the peace to move forward, knowing that God is in control. Sometimes, God's plan may seem contradictory to what we want. It may lead us down paths we would not have chosen, or it may mean letting go of something we thought was essential for our happiness. But in the end, we always discover that His plan is better. God knows what we need much better than we do, and His desire is to see us thrive. By trusting in His guidance, we discover that even when the path is difficult, we are being led to a place of blessing and peace. Trust in God is not something that just happens. It is something that is cultivated over time. As we walk with Him and see His faithfulness in our lives, our trust in His plan grows. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to deepen our faith and strengthen our relationship with Him. By trusting in His plan, we discover a peace and strength that sustain us, even in the most difficult moments of life. God's love is a constant beacon in our lives, a love that has no end and does not depend on our actions or circumstances. This eternal love is the foundation upon which we can build our faith and find peace, even in the most turbulent moments. Throughout life, we may face many challenges and make mistakes, but none of that can separate us from God's unconditional love. It is a love that transcends time, a love that embraces us at every stage of our existence. Often, We feel unworthy of God's love, especially when we fail or make decisions that we regret. But the truth is that God's love is not based on our merits. It is a gift that is given to us unconditionally. This love reminds us that no matter how many times we fall, we can always rise and return to the arms of our Heavenly Father. His love is a constant that gives us the strength to keep going, no matter the mistakes we have made. The immutability of God's love is what makes it so powerful. In a world where everything seems to be constantly changing, God's love remains firm and unchanging. No matter how dark the day becomes or how great the storm, His love is the refuge we can always turn to. This love offers us comfort in the midst of pain, peace in the midst of confusion, and hope in the midst of despair. It is a love that heals, a love that restores, and a love that never fails. God's love is like a refuge in the midst of the storm. When the world hits us with its cruelty, and we feel lost, we can find comfort in the fact that we are loved by the one who never fails. This love is a constant reminder that no matter what we face, we are never alone. God is with us, loving us through every challenge, every pain, every moment of uncertainty. It is in His love that we find the peace we so desperately need. A practical example of how this love manifests is through forgiveness. God not only loves us but forgives us, time and time again. No matter how many times we have failed, His love is there to welcome us with open arms. This forgiveness is an act of pure love, a reminder that there is always a way back to Him. We do not need to carry the burden of our mistakes. We can give them to God and rest in His loving mercy. It is common to feel that we are not worthy of God's love, especially when we have made serious mistakes. But the truth is that His love is not based on our worthiness, but on His divine nature. He loves us not for what we do, but for who we are, His children. This understanding frees us from the weight of guilt and allows us to live with the certainty that, no matter what happens, we are always loved. There is nothing that can separate us from God's love. God's love is also a constant source of peace. In a world full of chaos and confusion, His love is the anchor that keeps us firm. No matter what happens around us, we can find tranquility in the fact that we are loved unconditionally. This peace is not simply the absence of problems, but a deep sense of well-being that comes from knowing that we are in the hands of a God who loves us beyond all measure. God's love is renewed in our lives. It is not a love that runs out over time, but one that strengthens and deepens with each experience. God's love is also a call to love ourselves and others. When we understand how much God loves us, we begin to see ourselves and others through His eyes. This love drives us to be more compassionate, more patient, more generous. It reminds us that just as God loves us unconditionally, we are called to extend that same love to those around us. By doing so, we reflect God's love in the world and become instruments of His peace. God's love also teaches us to forgive ourselves. Now that you have received this message, the question is, what will you do with it? It is no coincidence that you have come this far, and it is definitely not an accident that God has spoken to your heart today. This is a crucial moment in your life, a turning point that could change everything. Are you going to continue on the same path as always, or are you ready to take a step toward the transformation you so desire? Think about it carefully. You have learned that you are not alone, that there is an eternal love that sustains you, and that the trials you face today are only the prelude to the blessings that are to come. Are you willing to trust in God's plan and allow His love to guide every aspect of your life? If you do not take action now, you risk losing the peace and happiness that He has reserved for you. Do not let the opportunity slip away. What changes will you make starting today? Perhaps you need to forgive, let go of the past, or simply trust more in God. Whatever it is, the time to act is now. Do not delay your happiness any longer. Remember, God is calling you to live a full life, filled with His love and grace. Are you ready to respond to that call? Because the transformation you desire begins with a decision. Before you leave, make sure to subscribe to this channel and activate notifications. You don't want to miss the upcoming messages that God has for you. Each video is a new opportunity to deepen your faith, learn more about His plan for you, and receive the inspiration you need to keep going. Click now and join this faith community that is changing lives, one at a time. Do not get left behind.